So I'm going to start out by telling you a story. In 1983, about 150 of the world's greatest long-distance runners gathered outside of Sydney, Australia for their annual road race. But this was no ordinary road race. This road race would go from Sydney to Melbourne. On our map, it doesn't look like it's very far, but it's 542 miles. So if you've ever run a road race, if you've ever especially run a marathon, or even been to the Boston Marathon, you know that's 26.2 miles. So this would be the equivalent of running Boston back to back to back over 20 times straight, right?
Wow.
Now, I personally know how hard it is to run a marathon because I've finished 6, but I started 7. So what does that tell you? I didn't finish one. It actually beat me up pretty bad, that one did. So I know personally, but the athletes that trained for this one, they were super athletes. They were literally training their body to run 18 hours a day and sleep for 6. And run 18 more hours and sleep for 6. And then run 18 more hours and sleep for 6. And if all went well, they'd start to cross the finish line somewhere around day 6. Then there was Cliff Young. Cliff Young was a local potato farmer and a sheep rancher. When he showed up, they thought he was a spectator. He still had his overalls and his work boots on. But then he goes up to register for the race, and the press, they're immediately attracted to him. They start asking questions. What's your name? Cliff Young. How old are you, Cliff? 61. You're going to run this race? Yep. They thought it was a publicity stunt. They never thought he'd finish. They thought he might even drop dead trying. But Cliff Young didn't know the strategy. So when the others took off, they started building a gap, but then they went to sleep after 18 hours, and he kept running through the night. He did that through day 2, day 3, and day 4, just catching a half an hour here and an hour there. And when he crossed the finish line on day 5, he not only was in first place, he shaved 9 hours off the prior record. Wow. They give him one of those big cardboard checks for $10,000. He doesn't even know there's prize money. He gives $2,000 each to the next 5 people that cross the finish line, saying they worked harder than I did. It was written up all over Australia. It even made the press here in the United States. He was on Time magazine, right? So now for the next 20 years, Cliff continues to run road races and raise money for local charities. And so he literally inspired thousands of people, not only to want to run road races, but to do more for their communities. And so guess what? That's why I'm here tonight. I'm here to improve the health of our community by teaching you the stretches and exercises that are going to help reduce your risk of injury. They're going to help strengthen your core so that when you bend over, you don't go, oh, I think I just threw my back out, right? So that you can be healthier, but not just for yourself, for your community, right? Because you can do more when you're healthier. But if you're not healthy, you have limitations. So I'm going to go through some stretches and exercises tonight. But before I do that, I'm going to start out with a couple of what I call cold, hard facts, okay? And these cold, hard facts are specifically related to the health of the United States and our healthcare system. Cold hard fact number 1, the US spends more money on healthcare than any other country in the world, and it's not even close, right? The US spent $4.1 trillion on health care in 2021. We spent $4.5 trillion in 2022, and we spent $4.9 trillion in 2023. Now, looking at the trends, 4.1 in 21, 4.5 in 22, 4.9 in 23. Do you think 24 is going to be higher or lower? We'll know that in the next few months. I'm certain it's going to be higher as well. And as a matter of fact, it averages $15,475 per person, every man, woman, and child, every year in the United States in 2023, which means that we spend more than double per person than almost every other industrialized. We're not talking about third world countries. We're talking about other industrialized countries. We spend more than double per person than almost everybody else. It's unsustainable. It's the number 1 debt of the US government. And it's the number 1 reason for individual bankruptcies. When they look at the bankruptcies, the number 1 debt is medical debt. We can't keep on this path. Cold hard fact number 2, the US is less than 5% of the world's population, yet we consume over 50% of the world's medications. We are somewhere between 330 and 340 million people of over 8 billion worldwide. So we're not even near 5%, right? but we take over 50% of the world's drugs. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a bad thing. And I'm not saying that all drugs are bad. If I have diabetes, I want insulin, right? In other words, there's some medications that are life-saving. I don't have a problem with life-saving medications. I have a problem that we're over-medicated. And there's a big difference between the two of those. Agreed? Yes. So we spend more money per person. We take more medications. We have more special testing per person than any other country in the world. And we perform more surgeries per person than any other country in the world. Which brings me to cold hard fact number 3. We can't crack the top 10 in any major health category, even though that we spend more, take more, and do more. And when it comes to our overall health, we think, because we've been taught by society and specifically the drug manufacturers, that we're the healthiest country in the world. And yet we're 26 in infant mortality. How is that possible? The United States, one of the most advanced countries in the world, and 25 other countries have lower infant mortality rates than we do. We're 34th in longevity. Now, most people think that we live a long time, and we do live a lot longer than we did 100 and 200 years ago. But do you know that we're 34th, which means that we rank below Chile and Lebanon? I mean, there's 33 other countries that live longer than us. I don't even understand how that's possible when you spend more and do more, but I do know that it's a bad thing, and I do know that mostly it's our philosophy. It's the way we look at health. In the United States, we look at health and health issues as bad genes and bad germs, right? So if you have bad genes, you're going to have a health problem. And 30, 40, 50 years ago, I affectionately called them the genetic supremacists. It sounds really nice, doesn't it? The genetics, because they said everything's the genes, and we're going to find a cure for everything just by studying the genes. Today, we know that the vast majority of health problems are not our genes. As a matter of fact, they say it's less than 5%. And we're pouring a ton of money into genetic research and CRISPR and all the different things that we can do. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that either, right? But what I'm saying is that if it's your genes, there's nothing you can do because you can't change your genes. Is it bad germs? What do we have this year on what's the hot topics on the news? RSV, COVID again, and the flu, right? They call it the triple threat. Can we change the germs? No, not you and I, right? We can wash our hands, we can minimize our exposure, but we can't change the germs. Were those germs here last year, the year before, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, literally since the beginning of time? Every one of the germs that we have today were there from the beginning of time. They've mutated. We have different versions of them, right? But if it's the germs, there's nothing we can do. So if you believe that it's your bad genes or your bad germs, I don't know what to tell you, right? When it comes to bad genes, and I can't tell you how many times I hear this. I hear people say, well, my dad had heart disease and my dad's dad had heart disease, and so that's why I'm going to have heart disease. Or my mom had diabetes and my mom's mom had diabetes, so that's why I'm going to have diabetes. And they tell me, you know what, diabetes runs in my family. And I tell them that's not the problem. You know what the problem is? Nobody runs in your family. That's the problem. Number 3 is lifestyle. This is the one we have the most impact on, right? And there's a great chiropractor that I've followed for years. He has this saying, we need to eat well, think well, and move well. And so when you think about eating well, if you eat fast food on a regular basis, you're moving away from health. If you eat whole foods on a regular basis, you're moving towards health. Make sense? Yes. Think well. How powerful is your brain? Really powerful, right? Can stress cause health problems? Absolutely. I cannot tell you how many people tell me, tableside, oh, I can feel it right across here. I just had a lot of stress at work this week. Got a headache. I got a migraine. I got an upset stomach. And it's stress, right? So we have to be able to think well. We have to be able to reduce our stress. And then we have to be able to move well. And so that's why we're here tonight, right? So we're going to be able to move well so that we can move towards better health and away from sickness and disease. Because does anybody need another research project to say exercise is good? Wouldn't we all agree that there's plenty of them that have been done. I don't know that we need another one to prove it. It's fine that they do, but I think we all can agree. If we eat well, think well, and move well, we move towards health, right? And so we're going to go over the 10 stretches that I do every morning in less than 5 minutes. So how many stretches? How long should it take you? 5 minutes. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with stretch number 1. And Len, can I have you do me a favor? Every once in a while, you'll see me in a different position. Hit that button right there. Yeah, you got it. So 10 stretches in less than 5 minutes. I'm going to get on the ground. Now, in past workshops, we had others come up, but this is a little bit fuller than usual. So I'm just going to show them. And again, if you have questions afterwards or you want to watch the video again, feel free. Okay. So I'm going to get on the ground. I'm going to show you all 10 stretches. And if somebody wants to time me, they'll see it's less than 5 minutes. The first stretch, you're going to lay on your back. You're going to have your right knee up, your right arm out. You're going to grab your knee. You're going to stretch across. And all you're going to do is hold it there for 5 to 10 seconds. This is one of my favorite stretches for the low back. After 5 to 10 seconds, you're going to bring it back to center. You're going to switch sides. Left knee up, left arm out. Grab that knee, draw it across. 5, 10 seconds. Nice and relaxed. Back to center. Next, we're going to stretch our glute. So bring our right knee up, grab a hold of it, pull in. This also will increase the range of motion in your hip and knee joints, by the way, but it's a stretch for the glutes down here. 5, 10 seconds later, you're going to bring it back, the other side up, pull it up nice and tight. Now, the key to your stretches is that they should always be in a pain-free range of motion. So if you're feeling pain, you need to back off because stiffness is fine, pain is not. Stretch. Next one. Oh, you're behind, Len. Okay, you got it. All right, there you go. All right, next one, you're going to come up to a seated position. Legs in the shape of a V. You're going to lean forward at the waist. You're going to look out, not down. This is not a stretch for your neck. This is a stretch for your hamstrings. So you're going to lean out. You're going to hold it for 5 to 10 seconds. If one hamstring is tighter than the other hamstring, you can lean towards that side. So if I want to stretch the right hamstring, I lean to the right. Left hamstring to the left. And you're going to feel a really good stretch in your hamstrings. Next, you're going to bring the sole of your feet together. Pull them in nice and tight. Grab a hold of your ankles and then press down on your knees as you're leaning forward. And again, looking out, leaning forward. This is going to be a stretch for the inner thighs right in here. 10 seconds later, we're going to come up to a standing position. We're going to go into a stretch for our calves. We're going to get up against the wall. We're going to stand there. We're going to put one foot behind us. We're going to have our heel flat. So your foot should be flat on the ground. And then you're going to lean into the wall until you feel that stretch. And that's a really good stretch for your calf right there. I can really feel that one. Again, 5, 10 seconds later, we're going to switch sides. Foot way behind you. Lean into that wall. Get as low as you can to get that stretch. 5, 10 seconds later, you're going to come back up. Now we're going to go into the quads. So I'm going to stand there. I always like bracing with the wall, but you're going to bring this one up. This is one of the tougher ones, by the way, especially from a balance perspective, or if you have a knee or hip issue, you can't get your leg up high enough, but you want to get that heel right up towards your glute. And then what you want to do to stretch this quad is that you want to bring it back a little bit. So notice that I'm going to bring it back even with my other leg if I can. And you're really going to feel that stretch, right? You're going to hold it 5, 10 seconds. You're going to switch sides. Of course, I'm going to have to do this by balancing. I got this. Let's see. There we go. Nice, good stretch. Push it back a little bit if you need to. 5, 10 seconds later, now we're going to the upper back. I'm going to put the arm across. And you guys can do this if you want. Put your arm on your shoulder. Okay. There you go. And now with the other hand, you're going to turn, pull it across. You're just going to kind of rotate. And then if you want to get a little bit more stretch, you can bend. You should feel that right across your shoulder and your upper back, right? Opening up those shoulder blades. 5, 10 seconds later, we're going to switch sides. Put the hand up, bring it in, pull it, bend. Good stretch. Triceps muscle, upper back, okay, and shoulder joint. Back to the center. Put your hand behind your head, right at your neck. Bring your elbow up higher. Now you're going to bring this and you're going to draw it down. And then again, you're going to lean away. That's a tricep stretch. You should feel this here. If you're not, check in with me afterwards. We'll find out. Switch sides. Grab a hold of it. Stretch. Good stretch. There's your triceps. Now, shake it out a little bit if you need to, right? So sometimes it can get a little stiff, a little tighten up. Now, the next one's going to be for the neck. So what you're going to do is you're just going to let your head drop to the side. Don't even put your fingers on your head. Just let it rest there. Now, you should feel just a light stretch right there. If you want to feel a little bit more, then you can use your fingers, but very lightly. You don't need very much pressure. Just lightly pull down. Hold that for 5-10 seconds. Switch sides. Drop. Stretch. Nice and relaxed. 5 seconds later, back to center. Last one. You're just going to turn and look over your shoulder. Again, you don't even need to push if you don't want to. You can just stretch. But if you want a little bit more, press on your chin. 5-10 seconds later, back to center. You're going to look over your left shoulder. Press. Hold. 5-10 seconds later, back to center. Shake it out. Okay, and it's okay. I like to do this. I like getting those joints really moving. Okay, so now I'll take that. Thank you, Len. So now we've done our 10 stretches. Did that take us about 5 minutes? Right? So 10 stretches in 5 minutes. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to start with some core strengthening. And there's a lot of core strengthening exercises that you can do. Way more intense or way more complicated than these. This is your starting point. So if you do not strengthen your core on a regular basis, this is where you want to start. If you're more advanced, that's fine. You can keep going. But again, what you're going to do is you're going to start off partial curl, pelvic bridge, prone press up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay on my back. I'm going to have my feet up, my knees up, my feet flat on the floor. I'm going to cross my arms across my chest. Now with this, before I start to come up, I'm going to flatten my back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage my core, my abdominal muscles. I'm going to flatten my back. And I'm not trying to curl here as much as I'm trying to come up. I want to think of my body going up with this, okay? And all you're going to do is perform that until you're tired. It literally could be 4 or 5 of them in the beginning. It could be 40 or 50 of them after you've been conditioned for a while, right? But what you're going to do is you're going to do it until you're tired. The reason that you only want to go until you're tired, and you can feel a little bit of a burn, is that once you get to that stage, if you keep pushing it, that's where you pull something, right? So we typically don't do it because of the amount of the weight and stuff. It's because we lose form, and once we lose form, we start to injure ourselves. So we want to do that, making sure that we protect our form. The next one is going to be the pelvic bridge. So you start in the same position, but this time your hands are going to be by your side. And what you're going to do, again, engage the core, press the low back flat, and then you're going to lift up, you're going to come down, lift up, come down, lift up, come down. And again, you just want to do that till fatigue. You're going to feel a little bit in your abs. You're going to feel it in your glutes as well and in your hip joints. Then after you fatigue those muscles, then you're going to turn over. Now with this next one, the prone press up, it looks like I'm pushing up, almost like a push-up. That's not where the work is coming in. It's coming in from the low back muscles. So you're going to lay on your stomach. Your hands are going to be to your side. Now, I'm going to lift up just once without them. So when you're going to engage your core, and then you're going to lift your body. But listen, you should not be pushing up. That's not a push-up, right? What you're doing is you're lifting your body, but just letting these hands rest as a gauge. You're going to do that until you go to fatigue again. That one, you'll probably get to fatigue earlier if you're not used to doing that one, because that's a really good low back exercise. Now, those are the 3 that you should start with. Again, you can build from there. But if you just do those 3, I promise you, when you go out shoveling, anybody shovel this morning? Half, 3/4 of the people here, right? When you go out shoveling, your core is stronger. So you're not going, oh, I better go see the chiropractor. Right? Seriously, how many of you thought that this morning? There's a few people out there. As a matter of fact, we had a new patient called in because he hurt himself shoveling this morning, right? So just to let you know. So these are the types of exercises that prevent that, though. So now you can go through all 3 of these in about 2 minutes. So we did 10 stretches in less than. We did 3 core strengthening in less than. We've got 7 minutes in. Right? We're only 7 minutes into our day, and we've already done all those. Then we're gonna go to some posture exercises if you want to. You guys want to learn some posture exercises? Yes. I actually wasn't asking. That's the position of the body. Okay. So if you want to, letter I, right? Letter Y, letter W, and letter T. If you want to, that's how you're going to remember. If you want to improve your posture, you're going to do, if you want to, exercises. And again, all you're going to do is 5 of each. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now letter Y. 1, 2, and when you're doing this one, you're pinching your shoulders together. 3, 4, 5. Letter W. Pinch, pinch. 3, 4, 5. Letter T. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's hitting people over there. 5. That was great. So, and again, so that's going to improve your posture, right? So, and it's not just about, looking good. But, back when your parents said, sit up straight, that's because they wanted you to look good. They didn't think about it from a health perspective, right? Today, we know the importance of your posture from a health perspective too. And so this right here will improve your posture. Then you're going to finish with some specific posture-based exercises. And so again, I know that you guys, most of you are patients here, not everybody, but most of you. So you guys know from the front, your spine should be straight, from the side, it should have curves, correct? Now, posture is the window to your spine, meaning if you look at somebody's posture, you can visually tell about where their spine is. So if you're looking at my posture right now and I stand like this, you can tell my spine has to bow for that to occur, right? Does that make sense? Right? So if you have any postural imbalances, there's specific exercises that you can do that will help reduce those postural imbalances. And so we're going to first start off by looking at tilts and shifts. And so when you stand with your feet shoulder width apart, a point right between your feet, your belly button, your sternum, your chin, and your forehead should be one straight line. So as we look at this model, that line is right between her feet. But do you see how our belly button just moved off center? And then by the time we get to our sternum, chin, and forehead, it's even farther. And that is you would never pick this up if you were looking at this person without that plumb line, right? That is a very subtle postural imbalance. So, but there's some people that have very noticeable postural imbalances, shoulders that are way lower, heads that are really tilted, right? Big shifts off of midline. So when we have those, there's specific exercises that you can do to reduce them. And they're called mirror image exercises. So if you're looking at those points right between my feet, belly button, sternum, chin, and forehead, and I'm going to start with a tilt, then I'm going to show you the difference between a tilt and a shift. So, and we're going to start with the neck, by the way. We're going to start with a neck tilt. So a neck tilt, this point stays right above the sternum, but the top point goes off center. So that's a right head tilt. That's a left head tilt. Now, if both points go off, that's a right neck shift. That's a left neck shift. So you're looking at the sternum compared to those 2 points. If the bottom point lines up, what is it? Tilt. If both points go off, how's that? Okay. So now you're going to so again, if you see one of those, you're going to mirror image it, and that's how you're going to exercise it. So if I have a right head tilt, I'm going to tilt to the left. I'm going to apply resistance. I'm going to hold it for 10 seconds. And I'm going to repeat it 10 times. But if you have a shift, if you have a right shift, you're going to shift to the left. You're going to apply resistance. You're going to hold it for 10 seconds. You're going to repeat it 10 times. So now, that was if I had a right. If I have a left, what am I going to do? Tilt to the right, apply resistance, hold it for 10 seconds, repeat it 10 times, right? So that's for the neck. Now, let's look at the mid back and lower back. Same exact thing, but now we're going to look at the belly button and we're going to look at the sternum first. And so if that goes off, right, now we know that something's going on in between those points. But again, what's the difference? There's a tilt and there's a shift. The difference is you look at the shoulders now. So if the shoulder dips, it's a tilt. If the shoulders stay level, it's a shift. Does that make sense, everybody? Right? So now, if I have let's go left tilt, what's my mirror image to that? I have to tilt to the right. So you can take a roll of paper towel. I'll just use this, but at home, you just take a roll of paper towel. You put it right up against the wall, and you literally just tilt in, and you tilt in, and you just start working. What you're doing is you're contracting the muscles on the right, you're elongating the muscles on the left, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to start to take some of these tilts and these shifts out. Again, if I'm shifting to the left, I want to shift it to the right. I just want to keep driving it in, driving it in, driving it in, holding it for 10 seconds, repeating it 10 times. So now, again, why is that so important? Well, you guys know that if your spine misaligns, you irritate the nerves. If you irritate the nerves in this area, you can get neck pain and headaches. Shake your head if you have those sometimes. If you misalign a vertebra down here and you irritate these nerves, you can have low back pain or sciatica. Shake your head if you've had that before. No, right? Yes, exactly right. And so those are some of the symptoms. But remember, these are the same exact nerves that go to all of your organs. And if you interfere with the nerves to an organ, you do not get pain. So up in this area, if we irritate the nerves of the heart, arrhythmias and tachycardias. If we irritate the nerves of bronchial tubes and they go into spasm, we start to wheeze, what are they going to diagnose us with? Bronchitis and asthma. Upper GI issues, lower GI issues, fertility issues. I've been in practice 31 years now. I've seen a lot of stuff, but some of the coolest stuff I see isn't the fact that your low back pain went away or your sciatica, right? I've had people that have been trying to get pregnant for 10 and 15 years, started getting adjusted and got pregnant. I've had children who were constipated since they were born, going to the bathroom once or twice every couple of weeks and started getting adjusted and their constipation went away. I personally have had adjustments when I was 8 years old and my asthma went away. And that's happened dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And somebody's raising their hand back there saying, same with me, right? I've had it happen dozens and dozens of times. And as a matter of fact, I have had people who nerves off their neck, all of a sudden they weren't able to sing the way that they're used to being able to sing. And we started adjusting them and all of a sudden they could start to sing better. So now here's the deal. I'm not telling you you're going to sing better. It hasn't worked for me. But what I am telling you, if that was better before and you started to lose it, we can help restore it. That's what I am telling you. Does that make sense? But man, some people are so blessed to be able to sing, you know, and that even in the shower, I don't sound good. That's how bad I am. So, all right. So the last postural imbalance is forward head posture. So again, from the side, the center of the ear canal should be in the center of the shoulder. Can you see how her head is forward, right? So we call that a forward head posture. It's one of the most common postural imbalances, but it's also one of the most damaging to the discs in the neck. And so when we talk about the misalignment of the spine, it interferes with the nerves, but it also can start to damage the disc, right? And so what happens, and some of you probably remember seeing this recently, this is an x-ray of the side view of the neck. There's the back of the head, the jaw, C1's angled up. Every vertebra below that is on this nice smooth curve. The disc spaces are well maintained. So can you guys see the gaps, right? And then the front edges are nice and smooth. Now these are really old x-rays. You can tell they're not digital, are they? But these were taken, this is serial x-rays taken over the course of like 20 years. Now, when it misaligns, what happens is that it starts to, first, and you're gonna see it's gonna shift. When it misaligns, it starts to squeeze the disc. In other words, it's putting the disc under pressure. Now, because the disc is under pressure, the disc is going to start to break down. So the analogy I always use with our patients is that it's like your car out of alignment. It's wearing the tires faster. When your spine's out of alignment, it's wearing the discs faster. So what happens is that as years go by, they get thinner and thinner and thinner until eventually they become bone on bone. That is arthritis, and it's a direct indication of how long it's been misaligned. So when you see if you see a misalignment, there's no damage, it's newer. But 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you're going to see a bunch of damage occurring, right? So this is always the second reason that I adjust, is because if I can get your spine in better alignment, we get the pressure off the nerves, you feel better. Your body functions better. You're healthier. But if we get the pressure off the disc, they last longer. You don't have as much arthritis as you age, right? And so that's the two reasons that I adjust. So what happens when you have a forward head posture? Well, that forward head posture often loses the curve. So again, we want it to be curved from the side. If your head's right up over top of your shoulders, you should be able to maintain that curve. But if your head goes forward, see what happens to that curve, right? So if we have a forward head posture, we have to be able to do some exercises. The adjustments can help. The exercises will make sure you get the most change possible. So with that one, and if you guys want, keep your elbows in front of you, not to the side, don't get too wide. You're going to interlock your fingers. You're going to put them behind your head. Again, elbows pointing more forward. You're going to push back against your hands, holding your head in place. You don't even need to push very hard. Hold it for 10 seconds. Repeat it 10 times. Go ahead and relax. Then you're going to look up. For the next one, you're going to look up at about 45 degrees. So think about looking up. Now this time though, instead of driving your head back, you're going to think about your head extending, looking up farther. So what you want to do, put your hands on your head, look up at 45 degrees. Now push back against resistance, but try and push back and down. Hold it for 10 seconds. Repeat it 10 times. That's going to start to strengthen the muscles in the back of the neck and bring your head back up over top of your shoulders. Right? And that will help you restore some of that curve as well. So now,
By the way, are you seeing more of that with people doing this with their phones?
It became epidemic 15 years ago. 20 years ago, I was starting to notice it a little bit more. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, right? iPhones, right? 2007, I believe, right? There's no question this smartphones. You cannot pull up to a stop sign, look in the backseat of a parent's car and see a kid that's not on something these days. Rarely, right? It is epidemic. And as a matter of fact, see how it's kind of smooth along the back edge here, right? There's actually, so what happens is that when there's any pull against a tendon where it inserts in the bone, the body is innately really smart and it will anchor it harder. So what happens is that, let's say that I'm a runner and I keep getting shin splints. Well, the body will say, you keep pulling that tendon away from that bone. I'm going to lay some more bone down there and I'm going to anchor it even harder. With this right here, there's a ligament that attaches right here that goes down your spine and to the muscles. And when we keep doing that, we literally form a spur back here. And you can see it on the back of teenagers now. And I never saw that when I first started practice. And it's really common in adults, really common. And so, and one of these days, if anybody wants me to show your x-ray again, say, do I have that? And I'll pull it up really quick and I'll say yes or no. Okay, because there's no question that it's more and more common because of how much we're looking down and looking forward at all our technology these days. Yes. All right. So now, here's the thing. So what do we do with our forward head posture exercise? So now 10 stretches in how much time? 5 minutes. 3 core strengthening exercise, how much time? 2 minutes. 4 posture-based exercises, about a minute, right? So now you're at 8 minutes. Now you add a couple of the mirror image exercises, you're at 10. Now, the last thing are aerobic exercises. I'm not going to go over aerobic exercises tonight. Figure out what you like because you're only going to do it if you like it. Some people like to bike. Some people like to swim. I'm a runner, but everybody can choose. But you have to get your heart rate up. You have to sweat because now you're strengthening your cardiovascular system, your musculoskeletal system. You're ramping up I can't even tell you all the great health benefits of aerobic exercising, right? Now, so even if you did all those and you added 20 minutes of aerobic exercise, you're at a half an hour. The reason I bring this up is because the number one reason people do not exercise is because they don't have enough time. But that's an excuse, right? Because if you're a football fan, I promise you spend a lot of time this weekend watching the TV, right? But if you like to garden or golf or whatever, you find the time. Some of you are binging on certain TV shows. Totally fine. Not saying anything about it, but you're using an excuse of time not to exercise, and yet you're spending time doing those things. Fit it in, map it out, whatever you need to do. So now, this is the end of the workshop now, but we have to end the way we began, okay? So now, I'm going to ask you a question. Nobody's allowed to answer this question until I go 1, 2, 3, and then we all answer at the same time. And I know that you guys are going to get this because you guys are really super smart. Okay, so when your spine misaligns and causes nerve interference, we have a specific name for that starts with the letter S. Has everybody got it? So on the count of 3, what do we call a misalignment of the spine? 1, 2, 3, a subluxation. You guys are great. Thank you. Appreciate it.